MCTV News, the evening edition.
Tonight on the hustings, Jean Chereé brings his Tory leadership campaign to Sudbury.
Winter's last stand, a deadly storm batters southern Ontario.
And April Fool, a practical joke about Quebec's controversial language law, leaves them laughing in Montreal.
And now, your hosts, Jennifer Gates and Peter Mallette.
Good evening. Jean Chereé brought his Tory leadership campaign to Sudbury today. In a speech to party faithful, he said that young people shouldn't be collecting unemployment insurance or sitting at home doing nothing.
Chereé is calling for a complete restructuring of government and government programs linking job creation with education and training. MCTV's Joe Schneider reports.
Environment Minister Jean Chereé is promising what's popular these days. If he wins the Tory leadership race, Chereé says he'll reduce the size of government, have a smaller cabinet, and streamline and reduce the number of government programs. But he says cuts alone aren't enough.
Governments and the future of our country is a lot more than about the issue of spending or not spending money. It has to be. In fact, that's the challenge of the 1990s. All this issue of our financial resources has to be linked to the other fundamental issues facing our country today. And that includes the issues that are cross-cutting, whether it's the economy or the environment.
He spoke to about 60 Tories seeking their support at the June Leadership Convention, and he had one specific promise for them.
During the next federal election, I will come here to this riding, to Sudbury, and to the riding of Nickel Belt to campaign for the progressive conservative candidate of our party. Northern Ontario is due for a change.
The 34-year-old candidate already has the support of the only two Tories elected in Northern Ontario. But when Chereé opened the floor to questions, most of the audience moved to the back of the room for sandwiches and chit-chat. Actually, after the second question, the din in the room became so loud, Chereé's answer couldn't even be heard.
I think we'll stop this here and we'll let...
To win those delegates, he will have to find a way to be heard. Joe Schneider, MCTV News, Sudbury.
And later tonight, Peter will speak one-on-one with Jean Chereé. That's still to come in tonight's News Focus.
Layoffs are looming at Sudbury General Hospital. Officials there say that the General will have to trim its workforce as the result of an arbitration decision that was handed down. More than 200 unionized and non-unionized hospital employees have been awarded wage hikes of up to 17.4%. That settlement is retroactive to April of 1991. Hospital officials admit that they've been banking money for the past 2 years awaiting this decision, but the amount falls short of what's needed to meet the salary adjustments.
Regional police are still looking for the man who robbed the Montreal Trust in downtown Sudbury yesterday. A Canada-wide warrant has been issued for the arrest of Lane Robert Smith. Police still think he's hiding out somewhere in the area and consider him armed and dangerous. Just after 9 yesterday morning, a man walked into the trust company, told everyone inside he was packing a weapon, and robbed the place.
In Kirkland Lake, school officials there are going public with their concern over an alarming drug problem. There's a new drug of choice making the rounds at a Kirkland Lake high school, and although it is not a narcotic, MCTV's Bruce Nesbitt reports that it is addictive and it could prove fatal.
Gravol. Taken properly, it can be an effective drug for curing nausea, vomiting, or motion sickness. But taken in large quantities, it can cause hallucinations or make you high. Staff at this Kirkland Lake High School didn't know their students were abusing the over-the-counter drug until the week before the March break. Even then, there was only one case, but 4 or 5 more have been reported since, and faculty wants to let parents know what's going on.
We decided that perhaps it was worth bringing to the attention of families so that if kids were abusing it, that families would know so that we could deal with it. I don't know that it's a large problem, but it's certainly something we should let families know about.
Students at the school have a different opinion.
Well, I know that about a quarter of the school is doing it, and you can get high off about $2 worth of it. You know, 15 of them will get you fried, and it only costs $2. So it's a good resource, and a lot of kids do it.
It's real hard to know whether or not kids are abusing a substance like that, or whether they're ill. I mean, the flu's going around right now, so it's really hard to say.
The drugstore across the street from the school has been notified and is keeping an eye out for anyone buying excessive amounts of the drug. It seems one kind has been the favorite choice, For just $2, you can pick up a container of 100 pills. It might be a cheap high, but the consequences could be deadly.
Say 10 or 20 tablets sometimes can lead into convulsions, what's called respiratory depression, where they stop breathing, and eventually lead into coma and death if very high amounts are exceeded.
If the risks are so dangerous, why do they continue to use it?
Something to do. It's a boring town and they need something to do, so why not get high and pass the time by?
Bruce Nesbitt, MCTV News, Kirkland Lake.
Well, the weather became the news today in southern and central Ontario. Freezing rain, snow, and blustery winds were served up in huge portions, and the storm isn't expected to let up until tomorrow morning. The weather may have contributed to a serious accident that left 2 people dead near Guelph today. Details on that from CFTO's Austin Delaney.
Drivers sat helplessly as they watched fuel tanks exploding within seconds of the crash. No one could get near the burning trucks, which were welded together in a ball of flame. A westbound tractor-trailer crossed the median, hit a pickup truck, knocked the rear wheels of a transport truck, then smashed head-on into a gravel truck before bursting into flames. The driver of the tractor-trailer, which crossed the median, and the driver of the gravel truck were killed instantly. 2 other drivers were injured. Debris from the vehicles was scattered all over the highway. The accident happened around 5:30 in pre-dawn darkness on an icy stretch of the 401 at Guelph. Today's burst of wintry weather caused numerous accidents across Ontario. Freezing rain left a layer of slippery ice on the roads and covered the trees and power lines. There were some delays at Pearson International while planes were de-iced. In Toronto, we saw freezing rain, but Barrie has been dealing with snow. The spring storm could dump as much as 25 centimeters of snow in the Cornwall-Ottawa area and cause flooding along Lake Ontario and near creeks and rivers. Austin Delaney, Toronto.
You know, I was just going to complain about the cold and the wind, but after seeing that, I don't think I'm going to.
No, and to think that the wolves drove back through that weather.
That's what John Walton said today after he saw the storm story that came in earlier today. He couldn't believe that the wolves drove back, but they drove back for a very important reason, and we're going to have a lot to say about that a little bit later on in the show. No laughing, Jennifer. Right now, though, we're going to check in with Tamara for tonight's first look at the weather.
Certainly not typical April weather, and I'm not referring to the light flurries, but instead to very windy conditions. Not quite that windy, but earlier on, northeast winds gusting to about 60 kilometers an hour. So once again, taking the wind chill factor into account, -2 feels more like -17. A more seasonal daytime high for this time of year would be near +5. And the clouds and occasional snow will stay with us right through till Saturday. Checking the record books for April 1st in Sudbury, a record high of +13 degrees was set in 1986, and a record low of -20 was set in 1964. More weekend weather details coming up.
Also coming up, adult education and how it's changing some people's lives. No deal. Temagami's future hangs in the balance tonight.
And Canada cuts back its security service. 300 counterintelligence jobs are down the tubes.
On Thursday night, ride with the Secret Service.
The shooting of a government witness or informant is a serious assault on the very core of the criminal justice system.
On their most important cases, Thursday night at 10 on MCTV.
The brightest, the neatest, the hottest, the sweetest, the chicest, the cheapest, the sleekest, the lightest, the rightest, the tastiest, the tastiest, the funniest, the sunniest, the greatest.
Everything you could want for spring. The new Sudbury Center.
It's all coming to an end. Do not pay for 1 full year. The final weekend. This weekend. Pay no interest on home furnishings at the Brick. Take delivery now. Enjoy it all year long at the guaranteed lowest prices in Canada, or we'll write you a check for the difference. You make no down payment, no monthly payments, and you pay no interest. Do not pay for 1 full year. Check our 24-page catalog and do not pay for 1 full year. Final weekend at the Brick.
Mid-North Motors wants to give you $10,000 cash. Buy or lease any new vehicle from Mid-North Motors and you'll be eligible to win. Call 560-2100 today and ask for details. One call can put you on the road to winning $10,000 cash, only at Mid-North Motors, 2100 the Kingsway.
St. Albert's Adult Learning Center opened for business in Sudbury last September. And since then, Hundreds of adults have returned to the classroom to finish their education. Well, today the Learning Center opened its doors to the public, and MCTV's Allison Adams went to see what all the fuss was about.
Returning to school as an adult is difficult under the best circumstances. But after years in the workforce and raising a family, it's a transition most would prefer not to make.
First day was a little difficult, but after that I just sort of moved right in.
More than 30 years after leaving school, Libby Laframboise is back in the classroom. She's one of hundreds to benefit from St. Albert's Adult Learning Center. Jack Toss says getting back to the books has turned his life in a new direction.
I'm going to take it one step at a time, and I'll get through this first, and then I'll look into some college courses or whatever. Maybe look into opening my own business of some sort.
The Learning Center opened last September, and since then, dozens of adults have walked down these halls en route to a brighter future.
We thought that we could have 50 begin the program in September, and then with the hopes of growing.
And grow it did. The success of the center is greater than anyone expected. In fact, enrollment is close to 500. That success is now being celebrated.
Our success has been our students. If we're celebrating something today, it's because of our students.
For Libby, proof of her success will come in the form of a high school diploma and new skills for the workforce.
Some of the computer courses that I'm picking up, I will be able to further myself with volunteer work.
Allison Adams, MCTV News, Sudbury.
Another deadline has passed, leaving Temagami's future hanging in the balance. The deadline for land claim talks between Ontario and the Temagami Anishinaabe has expired without a settlement, and today there's no word on whether talks will resume. MCTV's Cindy Males reports.
Rich in natural resources, the Temagami area has been at the center of a much-heated power struggle. Protests by environmentalists, loggers, and natives put the Temagami area in the uneasy spotlight it lives in today. This latest round of negotiations began last year with every hope this time a settlement would be reached. So far, that hope appears dashed. Reeve Ivan Beauchamp wonders if a negotiated settlement is possible.
We don't have a deal on the table. We don't even have substantial issues dealt with at this time.
The Temagami Anishinaabe isn't talking about the negotiations. A spokesperson for the band refused to comment on how far the talks had progressed or even if they'll continue. The provincial government remains hopeful the talks will continue.
We believe at this point in time that we are making headway, and we're hopeful that in the next 3 to 6 months we will have some practical results for all people, and that all people will see some benefit from.
Meantime, the Temagami area, its economy battered by mine and mill closings, awaits some sort of settlement. Most future development is severely limited by the natives' 20-year land caution.
That whole area is a volcanic belt. Major companies are interested in it, Falconbridge for one, because it's the type of ore that they would be looking at, and they've spent a lot of time and money in the community.
One thing is for certain, the uncertainty in Temagami is likely to remain, at least in the short term. A negotiated settlement doesn't appear to be in the offing, and another court challenge could be a long process. In the meantime, Temagami sits and waits. Cindy.